they do say that all the world's a stage, and with the World Cup coming up in Qatar in the next few weeks, the pitch is very much the stage. And I'm very lucky enough to be joined today by John Holmes, who's the founder of Atlas Turf International, who are providing that stage, the pitch, for all the World Cup surfaces. John, how are you feeling in having such a key role in the World Cup that's starting in a few weeks' time?
Gosh, Scott, we're so excited to be playing a role in the World Cup in Doha. For years our turf grasses have been played on some of the world's greatest golf courses and great golf tournaments, but to be on this world stage like this, it's just fantastic.
When did you discover or learn or win the contract so that you knew you'd be doing this?
Yeah, so it's been quite the journey. Back in 2012, we received an inquiry from an entity in Doha called the Aspire Zone, and that's the Olympic training ground there in Doha. And they wanted to try some of our paspalum, our platinum TE, on one of their soccer pitches in their training facilities. And we sent some over, and about 6 or 8 months later, I was in the region and went to see how it was doing, and they were just ecstatic on how it was performing there. They had some challenges. Obviously, the heat's a challenge, but it's also water quality and some other site conditions. And we all thought it was cool and great and everything else. And back in the background, selection process was going on for the World Cup, and eventually it was awarded to Qatar. And then with STRI and Aspire Sports Turf, some trials in earnest began in 2014 to select a turf grass, and it was a really amazing process they went through to narrow down what ultimately they would use in the state, not only the stadiums but also on all the practice pitches. And I was fortunate enough to watch these trials take place over a matter of a couple of years till they finally decided on what would work best, and it was the Platinum TE paspalum. And even after it was selected, we really didn't realize the magnitude of what this was going to be. And eight stadiums and 81 practice training facilities later, here we are in the countdown zone.
What is it about paspalum and the variety, the platinum, that stood out? What are the qualities of that particular sward that made it so suitable for the job in hand?
Yeah. So first of all, there's no perfect turf grass. Every condition is different, and whether you're dealing with a paspalum or a Bermuda grass or a zoysia grass, all warm season grasses, there's places for all those grasses. And in Qatar, you had a situation where you not only had the heat, but you had shade in these stadiums. The way these architects built these stadiums, you've got areas where it's just difficult to grow turf, even with grow lights. And then you have the root zone that grows well, or the rooting that grows well in conditions where the water quality is not so great. So, the Platinum TE ticked all the boxes for what they were trying to source and make work there.
Now, what I'm reading into this is that the Platinum TE was already an existing variety. Was anything having to be done to tweak it for what it needed to do in Qatar?
No, a Platinum TE has been available for the past 16 years out in the marketplace, and its popularity was, again, more so in the golf side of the world, and used seldomly on stadiums and or pitches in general. And so it's kind of found its niche in certain locations.
Mm-hmm. We all know that the World Cup was originally scheduled for the summer,
right?
And they moved it to the winter. just before Christmas.
Right.
Did that create any additional difficulties for you guys? The fact that the really, really hot weather is going to be replaced by not quite so hot weather in the winter. I know I did an article in the Current magazine, or the one just about to come out, with Lee Collier from STRI, who talked about the fact that the stadia were built with the summer in mind,
Yep.
with the small apertures and the big state too, and that obviously caused problems going forward. Now you're obviously at the sharp end. What were you having to do to cope with that?
Well, there's a lot of smart people working there, and we're just one component of the success that they're going to have there. And the turf managers at all these pitches have great skill sets. The interesting thing about the Platinum TE is it does really well in the cool months. What's different about it is when temperatures get as cold as 8 degrees Celsius, the roots are still growing and there's still some top growth. Now, all the pitches will be overseeded with ryegrass. That's a FIFA mandate, no matter where they have these matches. And we were fortunate to be involved in that process as well with our partners at Pure Seed out of Oregon. We provided all of the overseeding for the stadiums there. So, but to, I guess, answer your question, there was really nothing that we've done. Where Qatar is really fortunate, they've had their infrastructure in for a year. So they know the exact conditions that they're going to be dealing with in a few weeks. They were ready last year. And so all the tweaks that have had to be done with nutrient programs and the lighting with the grow lights and everything else, it's, they had a year to practice.
Now we're talking about the World Cup, but as you alluded to at the beginning, it's golf that brought you into this situation. Can you talk a little bit about the background to you and the background to how the company came about through its golfing beginnings?
Yeah, sure. So my background, I'm a former golf course superintendent, and my journey has been, as a superintendent, and then golf construction, and ultimately working for a company selling turf grass here in the United States. And part of my journey as a golf course superintendent, I worked in Mexico and in the Philippines, and we imported some turf grass into those countries to plant on golf courses. So as my career took its twists and turns and I was selling turf grass domestically, I was working for a gentleman, and we began exporting turf grass to golf courses, mainly in the Caribbean and a little bit in Southeast Asia. And then when the Great Recession hit here in the United States in 2009, the company I was working for decided he'd rather grow potatoes and tomatoes and other things besides turf grass. And so we bought out, a portion of his business and started Atlas Turf International, and really focused on exporting and delivering turf grass to some locations that are just very challenged, both logistically and, in their environments of trying to grow grass. And that's, we became a niche company that grew into kind of a global company.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, we're talking about Qatar. There can't be many more challenging places to produce pitches or golf courses as well in that area. Do you think we're getting to the situation where we can grow grass anywhere? Or are there still areas where you feel that there's issues to be dealt with and progress to be made?
Yeah, the world's biggest challenge for the green industry, not only turf grass but for plants, is going to continue to be scarcity of water and the quality of water that is used for irrigation. And there's a lot of work being done both in the public sector and private sector on drought tolerance. And I think as we continue on as an industry of turf grass growers, we're going to have more and more products available turf grass wise that use less inputs, whether it's water or nutrients or pesticides. and that's a good thing at the end of the day. So in Qatar, with the heat is one challenge, but it's with the stadiums themselves, all the microclimates they have to deal with, and every stadium has a different microclimate. So they have a lot of tools at their disposal, whether it's the sub-air systems or the grow lights or all the tools in the toolbox to make consistent, perfect conditions there.
Now, I don't know whether you're interested in football, soccer, but no doubt you'll be, rather than perhaps watching the performances of Messi and Mbappe and Neymar, you'll be watching the performance of the turf, I would have thought. So what will success be for Atlas Turf International after how will you measure success for the World Cup from your perspective?
I've had a baptism of fire learning about soccer, and my background being a golf course superintendent. You would think, oh gosh, turf is turf, but it's really not. These managers of these pitches do an incredible job, and it's totally different from growing turf on a golf course, right? And there's some repeated themes, and one of those is injuries. So you don't want to see people getting injured on your turf. You want to see a good consistent ball roll, and you want to see really good footing there as well. And of course, at the end of the day, you don't want to see divots flying up everywhere. So those are the things that we'll be looking for.
Well, I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I'll be watching your pitch as much as the performance of the players. So I hope for the next 6 weeks that we're all enthralled by the Qatar World Cup and that all goes well for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, John, for your time today.
My pleasure, and I'm so happy to join you.